I was born in the middle of the country, on the East Coast, and yet I'm addicted to rap and hip-hop. But that's all formalities and everything. I want to start from the very beginning, so you know from where I was, my entire life story, to where I am now. I was born in the town of Bailey, North Carolina, to a pastor and a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooled all my life, so yes, I was what you would call sheltered. But I loved the world that I lived in, and I never thought anything could be any better. I grew up loving old westerns, specifically Roy Rogers. My bike was my horse, and I had a cap gun that I shot at every car that passed by. Yes, I'm what you could call a dreamer from a young age. But on a more serious note, from the very first moment that I can remember, I remember just wanting to fit in and doing anything it took to make it happen. Growing up, I was so influenced by what other people thought of me that sometimes I would literally change who I was around certain people just so they'd accept me. Growing up, my dad was the epitome of awesome. Each moment I had with him was a priceless moment that I always wanted to relive over and over again. I literally remember riding around with my little plastic lawnmower as my dad really mowed the grass, but I would follow behind him even though I knew it wasn't real. It felt so awesome just to stand in his presence, and those moments were like gold to me. When I was 11 years old, my parents called us into the living room for a family meeting. We found out we were going to be moving just an hour away, and even though it was only an hour away, I felt like my life had just been shattered. And that right there, that day, was the beginning of war. I'm not talking about a physical war with weapons and bullets and swords and stuff. I'm talking about the war over my soul and over my heart and over my mind that started to rage within me. Now, all my life, I knew who God was. I knew he was a good person, all this good stuff, but I had never made him a priority in my life. And so right now, this is where it's gonna get real. When I was 12 years old, I was introduced to my very first image of pornography. And from that moment on, immediately from that moment on, I lived in fear and condemnation. Not from other people, but from the lies that I listened to and believed in my very own head. When I was 13, I went to Philadelphia for a Christian youth conference. And even though I've been raised in a Christian home and knew the story of Jesus Christ, this conference presented the gospel to me, the story of Jesus Christ, in a way that I'd never heard before. That Jesus Christ came down from heaven and lived as a human for 33 years and then died the worst death any man has ever known. Why? Because he loved me and you so much that he came and died for our death that we should have died so that we may live free in eternity with him. That God loved me enough that he wanted to give me the option that I get to choose him. I wasn't forced to. I get to choose his love. I get to choose to love him back. And that in return, he would give me a clean slate and a fresh start every single day. Now I don't know about you, but to me, that was a no-brainer. And before I go on, if you don't believe what I believe, it's okay. All I ask is that you keep watching. When I got back from Philadelphia and returned to normal life, the things on the inside were changed, but the things on the outside were still the same. Except this time, every time I did something stupid and messed up, I felt even more shame and even more condemnation because I didn't want to lose my salvation, and I didn't want to let God down. I was terrified of the thought of, what if God looked down at me? And what if he said, look, wow, what did he just do? Look at this messed up kid, I'm done with him. Literally the thought of that made me depressed. Every day I would ask myself questions like, how could God love me? When every single night I was literally obliterating my own purity. I thought to myself, maybe if I got into a relationship, maybe it would change my thinking and I could be free. But how in the world could a guy who is struggling with his own identity ever try and lead a woman correctly? I searched for things to try to fill a void that I could feel in my life. I taught myself how to play guitar and how to sing, and even that was never fulfilling. So I tried even harder. I tried to define my life by music even more. I joined the youth group band of my church, thinking that maybe if people saw me on stage, they would think that I had all my life together. The music and the relationships never worked. And as I graduated high school, I knew I wasn't ready for college. So I decided to try an internship with Teen Mania, thinking they had the fix for my insecurities and the cure to my impurities. I tried to live life away from my house on my own strength, resting on myself that maybe I was strong enough to get it all done. Whether it was trying to get over my ADHD by simply not taking my medication, or trying to fix my addictions by simply just not doing them. Well, all of that lasted for about 2 months. And for the next 3 years of my life, I lived a life of shame. Even though I was doing incredible things and traveling across North America, putting on these huge conferences and ministering to thousands of people every weekend, something deep inside was missing. I came back home feeling like a failure, that because of my addiction to pornography and my own identity crisis, that I failed the people around me. But you see, that was my problem. I thought that I owed God something. But my dad puts it perfectly. You can never let God down because you never held him up to begin with. But you see, all my life I thought I was the sum of what people thought of me. But I am a creation of the Almighty and risen King. The people around me didn't create me, make me, or shape me. God did. And so I've got to be okay even if they don't okay me. See, my life is more than just having a nice house and a beautiful wife and 2.5 kids and a dog and a cat. See, every minute of my life, I was made to reflect God's glory and give glory back to Him. I used to go on mission trips when I was in high school, and people used to tell me all the time, wow, that's a lot that you could do for your age. But the thing is, now what I realize is that that was the least I could do. My Jesus was crucified. So who am I? I admit it. I'm a weak 21-year-old. And I don't believe what I believe because I'm strong. I believe what I believe because I'm weak, and I know that every single day I'm in need of a Savior. This is who I am.